Hey, welcome to episode 13 of this show, Did You Watch Survivor Last Night? A show in which I, Jake Shadell, ask my good pal, Thomas Powell, if he did indeed watch Survivor last night. So Thomas, got a quick question for you.
Oh, lay it on me.
Did you watch Survivor last night?
I did.
Good. One thing also that I did since our last episode of this, have you been paying attention to the Ponderosa episodes on the internet?
No. No, I have not.
Do you know what that is?
I'm aware that Ponderosa is a chain of cheap steakhouses.
That is what it is. It's also like a web show that they do with the jury members after they get voted off. They all go to this little bungalow, I guess, and hang out for the rest of the game. And each episode is like 6 to 8 minutes long, and it's great. I mean, it's fine. It's fun to watch, but it's, not super important. I watched all of the episodes in one sitting. Do you want me to tell you about the episodes?
So what, do they like discuss what happened that week or whatever? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. Each episode obviously is focused on the player who got voted out most recently. So Cass had her own episode, and it was really boring because it was just like Cass sits on a beach, and then Andrew came in, and it was like Cass and Andrew bicker, but then by the end they love each other. And then as more people come in, they each discuss more of the game and whatnot. But the episodes start off with them checking in with the doctors. And get weighed and everything. It's kind of incredible to see how much weight everyone lost. Joe and Savage each lost 22 pounds while they were on the show. Fishback lost 20 pounds. Apparently Sierra usually, in her everyday life, only weighs 112 pounds. So they go to the this little house they have somewhere on the island, I guess, and they just eat a ton of food. There's the menu for the food they can get is like a novel. It's so thick. So they pretty much just eat their whole food. Not a lot happens. It's just a fun little show.
Fun little
watch.
Supplemental thing. God,
yeah,
Fishback
exactly.
lost 20 pounds. Fishback does not have 20 pounds to lose.
I know. Yeah. There's I don't know what I was going to say. Let's get into this episode.
This is some ace podcasting right here. This is why we're in the big leagues.
Great stuff.
Number one on
if
iTunes
you want to sponsor
every
us,
week
email
since we
us.
Debuted. We've been dominating those charts. Look out, WTF, or whatever's number one.
So this episode is called Villains Have More Fun, which is a quote from Abby. I took issue with her calling herself a villain. I didn't enjoy that. I don't think she's a villain.
She's a villain in the way that, like a petty thief that gets caught by Batman is a villain.
as he's learning how to be Batman.
Batman doesn't notice the thief. The thief is not on Batman's radar. Batman just happens to notice the thief at a certain point and is like, oh, well, I can very easily incapacitate this person.
She's not even... I think she feels like a villain is somebody who is annoying and makes things hard for the rest of the players. But that's not what a villain is. A villain has just as much drive to win as the hero does. They just go about it a different way, maybe a less moral way, but they're still trying to win. Whereas Abby's gameplay is just like, I'm going to be obnoxious the whole time, and then people are going to hate me, and people will think I'm a great villain for that. No, great villains, like, win the game.
You know that trope where, like, the villain will, to demonstrate, like, how crazy they are, or, like, how ruthless they are, they'll shoot one of their own henchmen? Like, just out of nowhere, they'll just, like, shoot one of them? Abby would do that to literally all of her henchmen. Look
at how crazy I am.
In the course of 2 days, movie time, it would just be like every scene she's in, she shoots another one of her henchmen for no reason.
That does sound like...
Because she's like, they looked weird at me. Like, I don't know if I can trust them. They were talking, and I assumed they were talking about me.
That sounds like a minor villain in, like, the first act of the new Incredibles movie.
Ooh.
Which we have to go see when it comes out.
Well, it's not coming out for so long. It's like, hey, this sequel, like, 20 years after the first one came out.
They're taking the Girl Meets World approach.
Aren't we getting, like, another Cars movie before that or some shit?
Probably. I don't know why they keep making Cars movies. They're not good.
I hate you, John Lasseter.
I
hate you and your car fetish.
That Rescue Planes, or whatever that movie was called, I think there's been 2 of them now. Do you know the one I'm talking about? I think it's a Disney movie, but it's not a Pixar movie.
It is not Pixar.
It's a spin-off of the Cars franchise.
Yep.
That's so weird. Anyway.
I can't imagine why Pixar didn't want to be on board with that.
Let's take our worst franchise and then make it even bigger and more terrible.
It's actually not out of any moral principle. It's just that John Lasseter can't get the same level of boner that he gets from the Cars movies. Which are the only way that he gets off is by watching the Cars movies. So
they really just need to make the Disney Pixar franchise just needs to make a movie about anthropomorphic trains, because then they can have trains, planes, and automobiles all in one, like, box set. So you get the 2 Cars movies, the 2 Rescue Planes movies, and then the 2 training wheels movies. That's probably what it would be called, right? And then also you get a copy of the movie Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. Because, like, dads need something to watch, too.
Yeah, that's what that's called.
What is it called?
Nailed that title. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, my friend. Moan
What
Flair.
did I say?
You said Trains, Planes.
I feel like you're saying the same thing over and over again.
I said Planes, Trains. You said Trains, Planes.
Trains, Automobiles. And I was saying Trains, Planes, Automobiles?
Yes, you were.
This is terrible. This is so terrible. Let's just get on with the show.
Look, I think for the record, I just want the audience to know
that you knew
I'm
the
right,
title of this.
And I think that's
movie,
what's really what's important is that I knew the title of this iconic Steve Martin John Candy vehicle.
Vehicle. Good word choice. Okay, so we get back from the vote. They've just voted out the Golden Boy Joseph, and Wentworth is like, "Hey, now we all have an equal shot at winning challenges," and they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's a good point." But Keith is a little miffed about the vote. He was like, "I was left out of the loop. I wanted Tasha out of here, so I've got to talk to some folks." See, Keith doesn't always play the game, but when he has to, he does, right?
Well, yeah, but, like, I also think it's funny that you're like, did you think that other people were going to vote for Tasha? Like, did you even talk to anyone last week?
I don't know. I wonder if that was just, like, a matter of bad editing, because they're like, oh, well, Tasha's not really the focus of this episode. Let's focus on Joe. Like, Tasha was a big focus of this episode, and she got a few votes by the end of it.
Yeah.
So
I can see that with editing. It's just that, like, the way that it turned out, because we didn't get to see any of that, it just makes Keith look like a moron.
Yeah. But also, he mentioned that he was left out of the loop, so maybe he just went his own way. But yeah, he needs to talk to more people. So Tasha obviously knows that Keith voted for her, and is like, oh, I have to keep an eye on Keith. So we've got Jeremy talking to Keith and Kelly, and he says 3 Hunahpu originals in the final 7. Hunahpu was their original tribe on Blood vs. Water 2. All 3 of them were on their first tribe on their first Game of Survivor ever. And now one of them's probably going to win. Or at least get in the final 3. That's pretty exciting, right? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Jeremy said who to thunk it like 4 times.
It's a good phrase. I like it.
He's like, who to thunk it, A? And like no one responded, so he just did it a couple more times.
Who to thunk? Did you hear what I said? Who to thunk? Like when a kid
very
tells a joke and no one laughs, so they just keep repeating the joke.
Yep. Clearly you didn't hear what I was saying, but he just very specifically wanted Keith to respond to it, and like Keith was not having it.
You say thunk it like you think I say that because I'm Southern?
Don't patronize me.
So Jeremy goes off and talks to Spencer, and they're still talking about Joe because Joe's going to be a major focus of every episode of this season. And he's like, I have extreme buyer's remorse because they're all worried about getting voted out next now. Which they should be, because
the all-girl alliance, the very real, totally, definitely gonna happen thread of the all-female alliance.
Yeah, that kind of came and went. So Spencer mentions that he's worried about Tasha, and that's how we get the Tasha story this episode. And then we get to the reward challenge. Woohoo! I loved. Oh no, that was the immunity challenge. Okay. Excuse me.
No, I like this one a lot.
I like this one too. So they're attached. Each player is attached to a rope, and then the rope is like kind of twisted around this wooden contraption. So they have to like duck under and hop over this wooden contraption to get it straight. And then the next step is to build a bridge. Or as I wrote, because I don't pay super close attention while taking notes. I wrote in my notes that they had to make a horizontal ladder. Forgot the word bridge, apparently. So they have to build this bridge, pick up some sandbags, and then throw the sandbags at a tower of blocks that are on top of a table. And then once they knock all the blocks off the table, they win. This is Keith's second chance at this challenge. And Probst mentions that he won the first time he did this. So he says, this is Keith's second chance to win again. That's not exactly right.
The same thing all over again. Deja vu all over again.
I could see Probst, like, stumbling over that line. Just like, this doesn't really make sense. This is very ham-fisted. So
just Probst later really looking in the mirror like, this was an unacceptable performance. Probst fumbles his line. How will he recover?
There's a second Probst that walks on screen. Just to insult the original Probst.
They sent the backup Probst in.
It's TJ Ladd.
Casually murders Jeff Probst, and it's just like, all right.
How many times has this happened?
Time for the immunity challenge. It's like, honestly, it's kind of shocking the first time that you see one of the Probst clones kill another one, but it happens almost every week. So by the end of the show,
you would think you get used to it, but it's always shocking. It's every episode. It's worse and worse than the one before. 45 minutes of the episode is just Jeff Probst murdering an older Jeff Probst. And
it's always slow, too.
Yeah, it's slow and maniacal and scary. That's why I tune in, because I like being scared. See that? Okay. Right. I was gonna bring up Kyle XY because we were talking about clones, but also he's not really fun. We're trying
to keep this episode a little more trim than last week. We can't we'll be here for 2 hours if we talk about Kyle XY.
Oh, man. Can we do a Kyle XY podcast, please?
You keep stacking I can't do 1,000 podcasts. You just keep stacking more of them on top of each other.
We need one. Okay. So this challenge is not a problem for Keith. He wins by a long shot. So as Probst is congratulating him, Keith just is like smiling. He's like, I kind of liked that challenge. Or I kind of like that challenge because he's done it multiple times. So Keith picks Kelly to come with him on the reward, which is a great reward. We haven't talked about it yet. Because Kelly picked him and Big D for the last reward. And then he also picks Spencer. And Probst is like, why did you pick Spencer? And he's like,
oh God.
No logic, really. And then he goes on this
Keith had a stroke here.
It was so weird. He went on this super long-winded, nonsensical explanation, and at the end of it, he couldn't remember Tasha's name.
It legitimately felt like he was maybe having a minor stroke. Like that's
it was really weird, yeah.
Like he was like, I can't just like Jeremy's been married to 10, 15 years. I can't remember name Tasha, little cousin, but Spencer, he's just I can't really. It's like I don't. It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I felt like it.
But yeah, that was so strange. I don't know if he was exhausted or if this was a move. If it was some genius gameplay move. But yeah, it was weird. So Probst asks Tasha what she thinks of Keith's mini stroke, and she says sometimes being at camp is just as advantageous as going on a reward, which is what I've been saying every episode since they started picking people to go on rewards with them. So finally someone says it in the show. So the reward is super cool. They get to go back to the temples where they started the game and like tour the temples, like go walk around these thousands of years old temples. They get to meet some monks, have dinner, I guess, and sleep in the temples. So it's like incredible. So they're walking through the temples, and it's amazing. Then there's like a prayer session kind of thing with a few monks, and Kelly and Spencer are being very respectful. They have their hands folded, and they have their heads bowed and eyes closed. And Keith, on the other hand, is just looking around like, what is happening right now?
It's like so uncomfortable.
He looked around like Jim Halpert.
Yeah, he's like, anybody else seeing this?
Just like bug-eyed, like staring into the camera, like looking around, like what?
Y'all been here before? Everybody's acting like this is something that is, it just happens all the time. This is weird.
But he actually did love it. He said, people will say, where's Keith been these last 30 days? A temple in Cambodia or Mars? And they'll say Mars, because he sure as hell isn't in Cambodia. That's how amazing it is. You don't come across this in everyday life. I don't know what can trump this. Like, I think they did a really good job of building up this reward as an incredible experience, which is great. I think that the further you get in the game, the better the reward should be. Like, yeah, okay, cool, a barbecue, but like, yeah, well, like Keith said, like, how often are you going to come across these centuries-old temples that you can just you have free range over? I'm just imagining it as it goes along. If the challenges just got worse, like if the rewards just got worse, where it's like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Yeah, if you win, you will be able, you and two players of your choice will be able to go to a Cracker Barrel restaurant when you get back to America with a $15 budget. So as they're eating, Spencer asks Keith and Kelly what they think of the three of them as the final three, and it's the same response that he got from Jeremy and Tasha. Were like, yeah, okay, sure, fine, whatever.
It's like Spence being like, this is definitely my final 3. Like,
yeah. And then
I haven't said this to anyone else ever.
In a talking head, Spencer admits it is too early to say which final 3 is the final 3. Okay, well, at least you're honest with us, Spence. So then back at camp, everybody's sitting around. Cool. Tasha asks Abby if she can talk to Jeremy alone, and Abby begrudgingly agrees, and then in a talking head says, I feel I have more in my pocket than Jeremy, which I found to be interesting phrasing, because no, she literally doesn't.
Yep.
Like, Jeremy literally has an idol that will advance him in his game, whereas Abby has nothing. She is providing nothing to camp life, and she's providing nothing to any alliances. So Jeremy says, I think it was in a talking head, he says, is Abby a Scorpio? Scorpios are crazy.
I got 2 of them in my house. That's why I drink.
So as Tasha and Jeremy are talking, Jeremy says about Abby, he's like, I can't imagine dating her. And Tasha says, I've come too far to let Abby Maria Gomez ruin my game. That was so cold. Like, to use her full name like that, like that happens so rarely that anybody bothers with that. I thought it was great.
Abby Maria Gomez.
I thought about that. Inside jokes. So obviously, at this point, Abby is too much of a liability. They can't really use her anymore. And then Tasha says that voting Abby out would be a big move. No, it's not.
It's the smallest move there is.
It's the most obvious move you can make. And it's a move you should have made 10 travel councils ago. But, sure, if this is a big move, because you're all returning players, sure. So then we get to the immunity challenge. This is... Okay, we'll get to it. Just real quick, they have to swim to a buoy, grab a key unlocks a puzzle, and then they have to solve this puzzle.
Yeah, and there's like an obstacle course in between the key and the beach where the puzzle is.
Yeah. So Jeff mentions that the second chance in this challenge is the puzzle. Because this... They are grasping at the straws at this point.
Puzzle, you couldn't get it done last time.
You have a second chance to win immunity obstacle. Apparently,
puzzle. At the end, it's like the jury's like, puzzle. Why should you win?
And it doesn't respond because it's an inanimate object. So this puzzle showed up in what was it, season 28 or 29? I don't remember which one. But it was one of 3 puzzles that they could have picked, and no one picked that one. So it's come back. Okay, so this is... I mentioned earlier to you that there was a kind of a gross quote from Jeff. Someone falls over one of the obstacles and hits their chin, and Jeff yells, "Took it right on the chin," which I'm pretty sure is like a sex phrase.
Took it right on the chin is like, I think it's just like you got punched.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What? Like, punched his chin with his dick. Like, what are you talking about?
I thought it was like when you finished and then it was all over the person's chin.
Yes, that common trope in pornography.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, so I guess they don't really... Okay, let's not talk about it anymore.
All right, one thing I did want to say is, despite the fact that he won, Spence got punished in this. Like, he wiped out and, hit his head twice.
Spencer is the one who took it on the chin. Oh, right? Wasn't it him?
Yeah. And
he fell down quite a bit.
He had already slipped and fallen and hit one of the, little dock parts of it earlier. Like, I was seriously, Jeff had to be like, Spence, you okay? Like, it's, maybe he's concussed.
Spencer, Joe's gone. I need a new golden boy to root for. So yeah, Spencer wins. He does the puzzle in like 15 seconds, which is a lot faster than anyone in the test challenges did it. But the big story to come out of this challenge is that Tasha can't swim very well, and she's kind of like flailing in the water at the end of the challenge, and apparently she like took in too much water as she was trying to swim. So after Probst announces Spencer as the winner, he notices Tasha, and he's like, safety, get Tasha. I like that there's apparently two off-camera teams to help these people. There's medical, which we've seen often, and then there's also a safety rescue team. Like, I would assume that the safety rescue team and the medical team are the same people, but apparently not.
Nah, they gotta delegate for that.
Yeah. So they end up rescuing Tasha, and she's fine. She just took in too much water, so she's kind of freaked out, but she's okay. And we get back to the camp. We're just powering through this, man. I like it.
All right, well, let's keep it up.
Let's keep it up. Tasha says that she wants Abby out, and she's expecting Spencer to go with them. But Spencer is working to get out Tasha with Keith, Kelly, and Miss Abby Maria Gomez. So they've all got their little circle and talking about voting out Tasha. And Keith points to Kelly and Spencer and is like, I'm not going to have to come to Chicago and hunt you down. And then points at Abby and is like, I'm not going to have to come to Brazil and hunt you down. And Abby goes, you can't find me in Brazil. This was really great. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
So before the vote, Spencer meets up with Jeremy and Tasha again and tells them that the three of them are still tight. Okay. Like, as I think we had talked about before we started recording, Spencer is walking a fine line. He's playing both sides, all willy-nilly. It's not looking good. It's not looking good for Spencer in the coming weeks.
Like an idiot, he made it kind of obvious at Tribal tonight too that like he was playing both sides. Like
yeah.
I just don't think either of his alliances are going to think they can trust him.
Yeah, I suppose. Before we get into Tribal, though, we got to run through these wildlife shots real quick.
Yeah.
First of all, serious lack of baby monkeys. So, going to shoot out another email to the Survivor editors after this. We had some birds flying through the sky. There was a lizard or two. And then probably the best, if not the best, wildlife shot in this season, the best wildlife shot in the history of the show. I loved it so much. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Was it the snake snapping at the mouse?
Yeah, there was like a little rat, mouse, or whatever. It was like a night vision shot, I think, sitting under a branch, like a fallen branch. And you're just like, oh, cool, it's a rat, whatever. And then, out of nowhere, a snake just pounces on this rat. And then it cuts back. I think it was during a scene when Spencer was strategizing with people.
Yeah. Well, also the snake doesn't get the mouse. It just like...
Oh, it doesn't?
The momentum of it like hits near the mouse, and the mouse just goes flying off camera. It just goes out of the shot.
I thought they had cut too early to really see the end game of that attack to like imply. Although maybe it was some clever editing to make you think that this, because you know the snake and the rat thing from the first season of Survivor. It's like a legendary reality TV quote. Do you know this?
No.
So when Kelly Wigglesworth and who won the first season?
Richard
Hatch. Yeah. So when they were the final two, you know, every jury member comes up and asks them a question or does a little monologue. And one of the people did a monologue where she was like, what we have here is like on the island, or however she started it. She's like on the island, we have snakes and we have rats, and in this final two, we have a snake and we have a rat. The snake being Richard and the rat being Kelly. And she says, I think it would be just that, like in nature, the snake eats the rat. And they bring that up a lot in future seasons because it's like the greatest quote. The whole thing is amazing. And they reference it as often as they can. So that was definitely a reference to that. So I'm wondering if Spencer, being the snake, trying to attack this rat, is just very clever editing. He snakes around all these players for the rest of the game. And then... Exactly. But he doesn't get the mouse.
Oh. Well,
yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it was... Yeah, that was just a really great shot. I don't know if there's any underlying meaning behind it, but if there is, that's really, really clever. So we're at Tribal Council now, and Probst is probsting the tribe with questions. Get it? Do you get it?
Oh.
Do you get the joke? Do you get it? It's pretty funny.
Do you feel good about your Wii? Like, well, no, I mean, I wish I would have gotten an Xbox, but I guess.
So he's talking to Kimmy, and she says something, and Probst mentions, Kimmy said, do we have enough numbers, implying there is a group. And then they cut to Keith, who covers his mouth in, like, I don't know if it was shock or nervousness or bafflement, but it was just, it was so funny. He has, ever since Sierra was voted out, Keith has the best reaction shots of anyone on the show so far.
Yeah, it's like cutting to Dikembe Mutombo at the dunk contest. Like it's going to be wonderful every time.
So Tasha, you had said that Spencer kind of reveals that he's playing both sides in Tribal. I don't think anyone is surprised by that because Tasha mentions a lot of people are keeping their options open. So...
Also, I remember, now that you mentioned that, I actually distinctly remember Tasha saying, like, I am worried that, like, exactly what happened at the reward challenge. She's like, I'm worried that Spencer is going to make an alliance with those guys to get us out. And, like, literally, like, was, like, completely, basically summarized exactly what happened when those guys went on the reward challenge.
Yeah, well, you got to think about that every time somebody goes off with someone else. That's just a natural thought that would happen, especially when you're in the final 7. So with the "we" term that Jeff and Kimmy use, everyone for the rest of Tribal Council refers to vague alliances or voting blocks as "we," and it's like, I hope our "we" wins out, or this "we" is blah blah blah, and it's a lot of italicized speech, so to say. So they ask Keith what his opinion on everything is, and he says, I feel pretty confident my wees will reign supreme. Which that made me nervous, because going into this Tribal Council, I had no idea who it was. Like, every Tribal Council, it's pretty obvious, like, who it's going to be. This week, I had no idea. I didn't know if it was going to be Abby. I didn't know if it was going to be Tasha. I did not know if it was going to be Keith. So when Keith said he felt pretty confident that his wees would reign supreme, it's like, oh, that is not good. Like, whenever anybody says they're confident, that's a red flag. They're going home. But as it turns out, so they all go to vote. Jeff comes back. Keith only got 1 vote, so that's good. Tasha got 2 votes. And the final 4 votes went to one Abby Maria. She's finally gone.
Also, so Abby was definitely the one that voted for Keith, right?
I don't know. I know I looked at who voted for everyone, but I don't remember who voted for who. Probably. I could look it up right now. I don't want to. I don't want to go through all of that and go to the right website.
I just think she's the only one that would do one that out of left field, because I think everyone else was like talking to everyone, and I think at Tribal you could see her being like, oh, interesting. Like, apparently there's, like, a bunch of weird alliances. Like, I might have to decide who to vote for now. And then she's like, votes for Keith for no reason. It would be the most Abby way to go out in the game.
Yeah, that's true. There was also talk of voting out Keith throughout the episode. I think at one point Kimmy said that Keith is the new golden boy since Joe is gone. So I think maybe Abby just, or whoever it was who voted for Keith, just didn't get the final memo. So, some other notes that I have. If Kimmy isn't on screen in any scene, I completely forget that she exists.
Yep.
There was a point in, I think it was the Immunity Challenge, she came running across the screen, and I was like, oh yeah, her. She's still here.
She's just a complete non-entity at this point.
Yeah, really. So, at the end of the episode, the final 6, as Jeremy mentioned in the beginning of the episode, we have 3 players from Blood vs. Water 2, him, Callie Wentworth, and Keith. 2 players from Cagayan, which was Brain vs. Brawn vs. Beauty, so that's Tasha and Spencer. And then we've got Kimmy, who's from Australia. How she got in there, I don't know, but there she is. So then on the jury, every single person is from a different season, and only one person is from a season that is still in the running for the winner, and that's Cass.
Oh, I thought it was Savage. Wasn't Savage on Australia?
Savage was on Pearl Islands.
Oh, Pearl Islands. Okay.
So Cass was from Cagayan. So she and Spencer didn't really hit it off in their first season. I think they've kind of mended their relationship this season. But her and Tasha are not friends. So if it comes down to Spencer and Tasha in the finals, she's probably voting for Spencer. That was another thing in those Ponderosa episodes, especially in this last one with Abby. Savage blows up at Cass because she's talking all this shit about Tasha. Because, Savage and Tasha were pretty good friends for the most part. Cass though doesn't like her. So Savage is like, I don't want to hear about this anymore. This isn't something I care about. You talk about it every day, all day. I'm not interested in this anymore. Yeah. So that's all I got on Survivor. But, like I said in the beginning of the episode, this is that good time of year that Survivor and The Challenge are airing at the same time. So, Thomas.
Yes.
I've got a question for you. Did you watch The Challenge last night?
I didn't.
That's okay. I'm here to tell you what's happening. So this season is called Battle of the Bloodlines, which I think I've mentioned, which is a bad title. Just at the top, it's a bad title. It should just be called Bloodlines. That's a better title.
That sounds like a title that would be in a video game where you fight Nazis.
But
Wolfenstein, Battle of the Bloodlines.
It would be like a Mortal Kombat kind of game, where you're an American and you're fighting a Nazi.
Finish him, and a bald eagle comes down and rips off their head.
So this episode... Okay, the first episode... I get it, why they would call it this. It was still stupid, though. The first episode, they called it There Will Be Blood. Fine. It's Bloodlines, There Will Be Blood. That's a pop culture reference.
Yep.
And also,
episode
this
2,
game
Blood
is pretty
Simple.
violent.
Only movie titles with blood in them. Episode 3, Bloodsport.
Episode 4, that one scene when the elevator's open in The Shining. That's not a good episode title, TJ. You joke, but episode 2, this episode, called Bad Blood. Like, what?
Oh,
it's
man.
So dumb.
They used to have mad love.
I know. It's even worse. Okay, Real World Explosion, which I've told you is a really good season. Well, a bunch of the episodes would have X in, like, a pun on X in the title, like excursion or extra baggage, like that kind of thing. This one, they just take phrases that already have the word in them. It's only the second episode, so maybe it'll improve, but I wish they would do it like they do on Survivor, where they just take someone's quote and use that as the episode title. I think that's a better one. A better way to do it, because the whole episode you're like looking at it, like, oh, when's it going to happen? When is somebody going to say villains have more fun? But this one's called Bad Blood, which is stupid.
Okay, since you mentioned the X thing, I have to do a little sidebar on this. Are you familiar with the Usher album 8701?
Sure.
From 2001, you would recognize some of the songs on it. The thing that was significant about this album is that all of the singles had the letter U, like, being used as in, like, you, like, hello, you are my friend, like that kind of thing. So the singles off of this album were, You Remind Me, You Got It Bad, You Don't Have to Call, and U-Turn. And there were further songs. There was also Without You, Can You Help Me, You Are the One. And I believe that, I Can't Let You Go. But then there's like a bunch of songs on it that don't have you in it, where it's like, if you're going to do that, just do it for every song. Like, don't go halfway. Yeah, no half measures on this gimmick, Usher.
That implies that the album is all about someone else, but also Usher's name starts with a U, so it's really all about Usher.
I hadn't considered that part of it. That just really opens things up. But anyway, he rated this ship with... that was a successful album, but the next one was Confessions. So, like, who could even remember 8701 after Confessions?
I know. Confessions blew him into the stratosphere.
I mean, it was a pretty good song. It's a hot track.
So the episode starts and everybody's partying because that's what the show is. And Rihanna mentions that she's ready to party.
Yeah.
Woo. Camilla mentions that there's a lot of grinding. Cool. Surprised more babies haven't been birthed from this show, honestly. And if there was a baby born or conceived on this show, it would make sense that they would name that child TJ, right?
I mean, that's the move.
You just have to, yeah. TJ is a unisex name, so that's good. 2, names don't really have genders anymore. 3, you gotta pay respects to your dude, you know?
Also, maybe TJ's the godfather. Maybe TJ is the godfather to TJ.
Maybe TJ's the father. You never know.
Oh.
So,
Scandal. TJ Jr. TJJR.
TJJR. So, they have to take a bus from their house to the club where they party. But I guess they can't really fit a film crew on this bus. But luckily, Mr. Johnny Bananas has a GoPro and catches Cara Maria and Thomas in the back of the bus doing what looks like a little bit of canoodling. Cara Maria has a boyfriend. Thomas has a girlfriend, so not sure what's happening there. But then in an interview, Thomas swears that they were just playing rock, paper, scissors and mentions that maybe the hand motions look similar. Okay, Thomas, sure.
This seems like a very legitimate excuse. I'm constantly mistaking people like doing some hands action for rock, paper, scissors. Like, stop fingering her. Oh, wait, no, that's just scissors.
That's how you finger someone, right? With two fingers that are very far apart.
Yeah. Where it's like he's eating her out, and it's like, no, we're just playing Bop It. Oh, okay. My mistake.
That's a really good euphemism. What are you guys doing? We're just playing Bop It.
Lick it.
That one works. Did I ever tell you? I think we did this before you came to Central. But whenever anybody in like our group of friends would hook up with someone at a party, we would just like the next day be like, "Oh yeah, we were talking politics," like that.
Yeah, no, I do remember that.
That's so good. I wish we all still hung out, but we all live away from each other.
Parted ways.
Can't all have a podcast. Maybe
some of you are listening right now, though.
I know at least one is. What's up, Morgan?
Yo, Morgan. I think Robbie maybe listens to this, too.
Oh, hey, yeah, we should... See, I know you yelled at me about stacking too many podcasts on top of each other. Let's get the whole group, the Central group back together, do a podcast, and call it Fight Club.
Oh, my God, no, you need to stop. If we did all the podcasts that you wanted us to do, I would do 50 podcasts. I wouldn't be able to have a job.
Your job is podcasting with me.
Please, Jake, I haven't seen my family in 2 years.
Get the new podcast out.
Get back in the studio.
So at they're back at the house, and they get a clue from TJ on their sidekick, and it says that they're in for a creepy challenge. They always get clues before the challenge. And usually the clues are like, hey, wear your swim gear because you're going to have to swim, or like, wear you want to get dirty because you're going to get dirty. This one just said they're in for
Bring your welding mask.
Bring your welding mask. You're making a car. So the challenge is that one person sticks their head in a glass box that is filled with bugs. They have to kill the bugs and spit them through a tube. Their partner sticks their head in a different glass box, and they drop a snake on them, and the snake just slithers around. And they got like a 5 or 10 minute time limit on it.
What, did Joe Rogan do this? Did Joe Rogan develop this?
He guest hosted this episode. So the winner is whoever gets the most bugs in their little jar by the end of it. Everybody's super grossed out. I don't know why. It's crickets and cockroaches. Like, hey, cockroaches are gross, but like whatever. It's 10 minutes. Just do it. Kellyanne pointed out though that she doesn't want to eat anything that has poop in it. Will she choose it?
What?
I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That is just a really
see where you're coming
weird
from.
thing to say.
Cara Maria's the weird one. That's kind of her little character. She's the weird one. Like everybody else is about like working out and making out. Cara Maria is like the artsy type, like the only one on the whole show who ever does art. So she really likes the snake. Bananas, this is his 12th challenge. He knows what's up. He knows how to, take a shortcut to win. Instead of like grabbing the bugs with his mouth, and chewing them and then spitting them in, he just smashes the bugs with his head and then picks them up and throws them in.
Kill them.
So it makes so much sense. So Nani is freaking out, and her partner Nicole is really annoyed by the whole thing. Corey, who is, they're making him out to be the Joe of this show, he kisses the snake. Because why not? Challenge is over, and Brianna, who was also freaking out, she tried to get out of the box during the challenge. She's like, I don't know if this is for me, and I kind of want to go home. Okay, sure, Brianna. You don't seem cut out for this anyway.
If Jeff Probst were there, her ass would be out on the street.
I don't want another Colton.
You leave right now, you're dead.
Remember that awful sexist Tony from the first episode?
Yes, I do.
He mentions that him and Shane communicated very well together. So that's nice. That's luckily all we see from him this episode, which is very good.
Seems like a relief.
Yeah. This episode's all about Brianna and Jenna, who took last place. But this week, it's a guys' elimination, so they escape through to the next round. The worst team with a guy in it is Kohata and Jill. And Jill is really upset because she feels like she let down Kohata. Cara Maria and Jamie won the challenge, so they have to deliberate. So it comes down to Thomas and Steven and Dario and Rafi. Now, obviously, Cara Maria has been getting close to Thomas. They're, rock, paper, scissors buddies. So she decides to throw in Dario and Rafi. But she doesn't want to throw them in blind. She doesn't want to surprise them. So she goes to them and lets them know, like, hey, can I send you in? Which, that's nice. That's a nice thing to do. Not everybody does that. So Dario and Rafi are like, okay, well, I get it. And Dario says, I know it's not personal, but if we come back, it's going to be bad. It's going to be some bad blood. That's the episode title. Yeah. It was Kohata's idea to send in Dario and Rafi. So that's why Cara Maria went and told them, hey, I'm going to throw you in. And then she comes back to see Kohata and is like, hey, actually, could you send in Thomas and Steven? They're smaller. I probably have a better shot against them. Kohata's pretty small. Thomas and Steven are a little bigger, but they're still not huge. Dario and Rafi are beefcakes. I don't know why he would voluntarily go up against them, but that was his idea at first. So then he's like, actually, Thomas and Steven. And then somewhere else in the house, Corey and Thomas are talking about the elimination, and Corey says to Thomas, the person that might send you in is crushing on you. And Thomas was like, well, that's good. But it's not enough. Cara Maria ends up sending in Thomas and Steven. And then, before we get to the elimination, everybody goes out again, because why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
YOLO. People still say that, right?
Yeah. So Corey notices Anissa is a good dancer. Great. Brianna mentions that she still wants to go home, and so everybody's kind of talking shit about her throughout the night. And Anissa says, this show is awful. Anissa says she's not even cute, which, first of all, yeah, she kind of is. She's not like MTV The Challenge cute, but like if she was your friend, you'd be like, yeah, she's cute. So then they get back to the house, and things have been just bubbling up all night, and Jenna and Brianna eventually get in a fight, and Jenna yells at Brianna, go home to your fake Spanish-ass boyfriend who cheats on you all the time.
Whoa!
Yeah. And Brianna screams back, he doesn't! Like, tears streaming down her face, like, she knows that he does, but she doesn't want to admit it. So Nani, who I mentioned last week, is taking on the motherly role this season, says to Brianna, so dumb, who cares about your boyfriend? Your cousins! And Brianna's like, that's not really the same thing.
Yeah, in terms of importance.
So there are a lot of low blows from both Brianna and Jenna. I could not write them all down.
It's like two Rick's Flair fighting each other.
Yeah, oh my god, it was so fast and so personal.
Cascade of dick punches.
Like, I'll pause an episode if there's a great quote that I want to write down. But I would have been pausing it every 3 seconds for 5 minutes straight. There was so much going on. It was absolutely ridiculous. I could not keep up with them. But eventually they make up, and Brianna says that she will stay for Jenna. So that's very nice. And Steven mentions that if they had to go up against anyone, he's glad that it's Kohara. That's still happening. There's still the elimination, even though it's taken up 2% of the episode. So at the elimination, Thomas, as they walk into the pit, Thomas and Steven, because they're twins, are walking in sync. Which is really great. So the challenge, or the elimination challenge, there's a maze, probably 15 square feet, and then there's 5 or 6 8-foot towers, and then so there's a maze, throughout these towers all around. Inside the maze, there's a ball, so they have to run into the maze, pick up the ball, and then bring it to the other end of, or their opponent's starting line. So whoever does that twice wins. Tony, we have another quote from Tony. Tony, who might be secretly gay. He says, "This is what people want to see. 2 guys going at it." All right, Tony. So Thomas wins fairly easily. Kohara and Jill leave, and then TJ turns back to the remaining competitors and he says, "Hey, this season is called Battle of the Bloodlines. So I'm wondering, how would you all do against each other?" And then everybody looks shocked, and that's the end of the episode. So things are changing already. 2 episodes in, and
brother against brother.
It's like on Survivor when they switched tribes 2 episodes in, and then switched tribes again 2 episodes later.
Really shaking things up. I'm excited.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Excited to definitely watch the next episode.
I'm
definitely
sure you will.
View it with my eyeballs to see what's going on.
It's going to be great. Yeah, next week is the finale of Survivor. So we'll probably release it in 2 or 3 parts. We'll see how long it takes. Cause
isn't it like a 3-hour finale?
Well, 3-hour finale event, I think, is the proper terminology. Because
so there's a pre-show?
There's a 2-hour episode, and then there's the 1-hour reunion, which is when they also reveal what's happening on the next season. I've seen spoilers, so I already know what's happening in the next season.
So should we do an episode just for the reunion, or?
Probably not. The reunion is pretty boring usually.
Okay.
But I mean, we can cover it real quick. But yeah, it'll probably be 2 episodes, and then depending on how much time we have, we might cover the challenge. We might not. We might just do a quick recap of the episode next week. Or if it's a really dramatic episode, we might have to do 3 episodes of this show next week. Doesn't that sound fun?
Yes, of course.
And then the week after that, I will be back in Michigan for Christmas. So we're going to do a face-to-face episode. Right?
Yes.
That's what they call it.
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face.
Face-off.
So that's the schedule for the next couple of weeks. So did you watch? Oh wait, before we go, just want to mention. Firstly, we have an email. Did you watch last night at gmail.com? Email us to tell us how much you hate us. right? That's what people use the internet for.
Yep.
Second, let's plug our Twitters. My Twitter is Jake Scheidel. That's just my name. Thomas, your Twitter.
Mine is Thom not Tom, which is THOM_not_TOM.
Yeah. It works better in print, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it looks good. It's just weird to say.
It looks good. It's definitely weird to explain. And then lastly, I do another podcast that I have to actually go record here soon. It's called The Crash Test Podcast. It's about video games. It's very funny. It's a lot funnier than this show, to be honest. Just kidding. They're both great.
I hope you die. I hope you and every member of that podcast dies.
But then who will you do the 50 podcasts with? So that's been our show. Tune in next week for a double dose. I don't know why that was gross, but it was. For Did You Watch Survivor Last Night? I've been Jake.
I've been Thom.
As always, have a great summer.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Don't go revenging in my name. One person dead from such is plenty. No need to go get locked away. When I leave your arms, the things that I think of, no need to get over alarmed. I'm coming home. I wonder which brother is better, which one our parents love the most. I sure did get in lots of trouble. They seem to let the other go. A tear fell from my father's eyes. I wondered what my dad would say. He said, I love you and I'm proud of you both in so many different ways. If I get murdered in the city, go read the letter in my desk. Don't bother with all my belongings, but pay attention to the list. Make sure my sister knows I loved her. Make sure my mother knows the same. Always remember there was nothing worth sharing like the love that let us share our name. Always remember there was nothing worth sharing like the love that let us share our name.